Clint Lambert. I welcome you this morning as host of Village in Motion to listen in and to pay attention to our discussion. First of all, with Chuck Harding, who is the council liaison to the Communication Committee, and with Phil DeVore, who is the chair of the Communication Committee, as we talk about all those things that are communication around here and the things that we as residents can do to facilitate communication. But welcome, glad to have both of you here.
Thank you, Clint.
Chuck, you are the liaison to Communication Committee, and I know that you can always communicate. Are you the great communicator for the group, or what do you do?
Well, I'm not sure about communication. There's certainly volume. You could argue about the quality sometimes, but my role is to feed information from committee activities back to the council, okay, and also to take some of the information that's discussed in the council and what seems to be particularly important, maybe not well understood, and get that back to the committee so that their members are particularly well informed about what's going on in the community.
Phil, you're the chair, right, of the committee, Communication Yes. Committee. What does that mean?
Sometimes we wonder. I joined communications because I applied for a volunteer position with General Services.
Oh, okay.
And I woke up one morning and I was chairman of the communications committee. So okay. It wasn't a life plan.
It wasn't a life plan,
no,
right?
No. And this was the second year of the committee. It was founded in 2015. Okay. 2016 we jumped in. In the meantime, the first committee had located 150 different ways of communication on
wow.
campus. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty outlandish actually, yep. And a lot of the residents are pretty overwhelmed by what right. they get from the moment they walk in. So our immediate goal was to begin to titrate some of that down to manageable material.
Okay.
We do not originate anything, which is curious. We're not an information agency. Okay. We don't write stuff.
So are you an overseer then, would you say?
Well, yeah, when invited. We don't have any powers of oversight, right. But invited in, we can do some editing and some proofreading and maybe some rearranging. Our first job was the resident handbook, which was a lot of fun, a lot of work. We feel pretty productive, although in the final analysis it was rewritten before it hit the streets. Right. So what we put in wasn't necessarily permanent.
Okay.
And then we worked on the handbooks for transitioning to Garden Ridge and for permanently leaving Green Spring, okay. One way or the other permanent. And then we sat in on the forums and worked with the people on that. These were administrative documents that we were then invited right. to look at. And then this year, we did we've done the best practices thing, which we can talk about it at some length, okay. But we also got the Flash off the ground. Oh. And we're very proud of that. This was an internal document for staff that Michelle Gamache-Jacobs was the editor of, and now she has expanded that with our help to a campus-wide document that is headlines. We want it to be brief and succinct right. and timely, right. just in the 2-week period that it serves.
So it comes out, the Flash comes out every 2 weeks, right? It's always a single page?
Yeah,
okay.
And front and back. It can be one page if we're in a light season like August, for example. Okay. But it's been front and back pretty much. And what we want to do is have residents use that to see what's going to go into their calendar for, right. For the next 2 weeks.
Well, for myself, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, my wife and I, we greatly appreciate having that because it's big enough and you can circle it and put it on the refrigerator, and it's a nice reminder of what's going on and what you need to be thinking about or doing.
We haven't seen any in the trash.
Good.
In the recycling bin.
That's positive. That is very positive.
And we've had mostly positive feedback. A couple of times we've been in error, even though we review the heck out of it. Occasionally it will have a poor date or time or something. Sure.
Well, it's always amazing. My wife and I are editors, and have been editors of journals and books and written books and everything else. That 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're looking at it and going, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, look at the errors that we have in that. The typos that we have in that. It's many times it's read and it goes through proofreading and everything else.
Well, it's true, and yet Well, I think it's been rather a tribute to the members on the committee, because we get the flash in preliminary form about a day ahead of publication, and turn around comments and suggestions literally on a dime.
Yeah, right.
And the committee has done quite a job with that.
Tremendous. Very, very good. You mentioned Michelle Michelle
Gamache.
Gamache. And Michelle is the administrative person. She's a staff person, and she works as the communication person. It's her job, right? It's being.
She's underneath General Services.
Okay.
And is the only communication person on campus,
Okay.
administratively.
Oh, okay. All right.
And she supervises the desks and that form of information too.
And her office is actually down in General Services.
It is. It is.
Right next to Lynn's office, if I remember correctly.
And she's been real patient with us.
That's great.
Yeah, she's good to work with.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it sounds like you've got a good committee. How many people do you have on your committee?
Well, there's, depending on how you count, approximately 6.
Oh, okay.
And Chuck is, we consider a member of the committee, although he is in fact liaison.
Very
so.
good. You mentioned the best practices. What's happening with that? We've got 5 minutes. Tell me.
Okay. Well, it's a document, sort of one page like this, that one might have by their desk to help them define how to write or print for speeches.
Okay.
Any kind of authorship on campus. And it gets into some detail like size of font, name, type of font. The authorship, most things that hit the street don't even have the author. They don't have a date.
Right.
They don't refer to previous documents. They don't have a history.
Yes.
These are all things that residents are curious about.
Exactly.
Where did this come from? Why are we hitting this right now? What's the need for it? Who's the author? Was there a previous document? And in one case we just cited, there was a previous document last week. So now we have 2 that are in the same month,
right.
and this sort of thing. So we feel like this will be a useful way for us to have input into writing.
Right.
The other thing, the final piece on there, and I'm talking with my hands, Chuck, is, we talked about this ahead of time, is that every document should be edited, should be reviewed by somebody.
Right.
And I'm a great example of that. I consider myself a pretty good communicator, and my wife will read something and go, "What?
What are you trying to say?
Why did you?" I'll go back to the drawing board, and
Exactly.
I'll redo the thing. And this is true for everybody. If you think you can do this without authorship, well, we have some really great examples of this right now in the press. You need somebody, anybody, a 12-year-old child, to look at what you've written and
See if it makes sense.
And see if it does what you meant it to do.
Exactly.
The other thing is that on campus, every single division has a committee, a mirror committee,
Right.
and the directors meet with those committees. Stop that, Phil. And so they have someone who's there that could edit their stuff by just going to their own committee. Okay. And we really want that to happen on campus.
Right.
That's the major flaw in communication at Green Spring.
Okay. So review what's there, make sure that it's as close as it can be to what it needs to be.
And the residents can understand it.
Yep.
Right.
Feed it to a resident, see if they can eat it.
We did stick more to things like making the typeface readable and this sort of thing. We didn't actually come out at the top and say, remember the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, and why.
Exactly.
But those underlie everything, and many times if you just say that, then it becomes more obvious what you're trying to convey.
In our last minute, you had mentioned the fact of a review by residents, that residents have an opportunity to review things. How can we do that?
Well, through the committee. If the department directors or whoever's writing these things simply goes to the committee that they meet with monthly anyway, and says, what do you think of this? And the committee will tell them what they think of it.
Okay.
And moreover, the committee is an inside job. They know that piece of information, where if it comes to us, we may not know, and we can edit it for cleanliness or that sort of thing, but for substance.
But you don't know if it's right.
For substance.
So if somebody's own concerned about driving policy on
There you
buses
go.
and things.
Yeah.
They need to go to transportation and say, does this
Yeah,
make
the
sense?
Transportation Committee is, up to date on what's going on and what needs to be understood by residents. And
Okay.
plus, they're a resident, and we do understand things a bit differently than others.
Right,
who,
exactly. Yeah. Sometimes we look at the generation gap and say, it doesn't make sense to us, the words that are being used or how it's
Right.
written in regards to it.
Well, that or simply that, if you're in charge of making things happen, that's a little different viewpoint than they're happening to me.
Right, exactly.
So-
Exactly. Okay. What else can we do as residents to facilitate communication? Any other pertinent things?
Well, you
guys-
could call us.
To call you?
We are available, and
How would we reach you?
my phone number, I suppose.
Okay, so Phil DeVore at
703-966-6834.
okay 966-8634.
6834.
6834.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
Okay.
we serve by invitation. So, if you want us in, we're there.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. You guys meet how often?
Once a month. And Michelle meets with us, Chuck meets with us. About an hour and a half, and then Chuck and I talk for another hour after that.
Okay. If somebody wanted to join that committee this coming year,
Oh, Lord, call me.
Okay.
We would love to have them.
Yeah. Plus, there is that time when you volunteer to be on committees.
right, and that's coming up October, November
It
area.
is.
Right,
Yeah.
right after the elections.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This would be a good time to announce your interest.
Okay. So, keep up with what's going on communication-wise. Do what you need to do. Get the information. Okay. Pass it along. Right.
Yep.
All right. Again, thank both of you for coming. It's been great talking with you, and hopefully people will communicate a little bit better than we have.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
again. Don't go away, folks. We've got an eye on Green Spring coming up as a roll-in, and then we're going to be talking about the updates that's going on with Resident Council. Stay tuned.
Airy, airy, quite contrary. All winter they've been simply frantic to wallow in their own Atlantic. They've chattered shrill of how they crave to plunge beneath the curling wave. With pagan fervor they exalt the feel of sand, the tang of salt. Come summer and they ride with glee, hundreds of miles to reach the sea. What then? The ocean is too cool, they seek the nearest motel pool. I'm Nancy Jarvis, and the poetry group is called Fun for Poetry, Poetry for Fun, because poetry doesn't have to be serious and deep and hard to understand. The idea is to enjoy poetry. Poetry is the essence of a feeling or an event instead of a long story like you read a novel or even a chapter in a book. It just captures that certain something that some people might find elusive. We bring poems in that we have either written or that we have found and would like to share, or we just come because we want to listen. I choose a topic each month, and this month happens to be weather. When I chose it back in November, I had no idea it would be so exciting. But that's the theme for today. We meet once a month, the fourth Wednesday of every month at 1:30 in the music room at Town Center. There's no dues, just come one time and see what you think. Come and listen to everybody, and that should give you an idea of what we're about. It's extremely relaxed.
Going away. Welcome back to Village in Motion. It is Thursday. It is August the 24th. Folks, the summer is almost over. Oh, gosh. And if you notice, the weather is a little bit cooler today than it has been, thank goodness. But so get out and enjoy it after the next segment. And we are going to be talking to Mary Sue Garner, who is the president of the Resident Council, and to Peggy Kellers, who is the vice president of the Resident Council. about some updates and things that are going on with the Resident Council. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Glad to have both of you with us. Mary Sue, this is your second year as president of the Resident Council.
That's correct.
Has it been fun?
It's been fun.
Great.
Yes, yes, yes. Sometimes it's a challenge, but it has been fun, enjoyable. I've really enjoyed working with the council. It's a wonderful group of people, hardworking. I've enjoyed working with the committee chairs when we have those meetings. They're involved.
Right.
I've enjoyed talking to the residents and working with them, trying to help them solve some problems.
Right.
I can't solve them all, but we try to do our best. Yeah. It's
Well,
been
you guys have done a lot. And there's some updates in regards to things going on. What's happening?
Well, what we really wanted to talk about was the budget request
okay.
list.
All right. Okay.
Because we have submitted that list and we're proud of that list. We
right.
think we've gotten a good thing going. We had we had 75 residents
Wow.
submit budget requests
Okay.
that fit into the category. We had another 46 people send in requests that didn't meet the capital
When you
improvement
said
budget.
fit into the category, what was the category?
Capital budget.
Capital budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of people used that event as a way to put in other requests.
Right.
Many of them should have gone to general services or dining services or
Resident life.
resident
Right.
life.
Okay.
And
So it became concerns rather than
yeah.
things that needed funding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes suggestions, sometimes personal concerns about their own apartment.
Right.
So we had to tell them that, you got to go someplace else to do this. But
And
then,
when you look at the capital expenses, you're looking really at big ticket items. So it's things like maybe more vehicles, things to do with building upgrades, that kind of thing. So it was somewhat easy to narrow that down,
Right.
at least in the initial mark, to get down to the 75 residents. But then after that, it gets a little more challenging.
Right. Well, out of those 75 residents and their requests, how many did you forward to administration?
13.
13.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Lucky 13 or unlucky 13?
Well, we hope lucky 13. 5 of them were left over from last year. We felt it was important enough to put them in again.
Okay.
And many people did request them again. So that was good. That was things like install keyless entry into the buildings on the outside. Now that was
I was going to say, that's been several years.
That's been many years, and it will still be there for many years.
Right.
However, Chandra was at Riderwood when they've been installing that, so she's all for it.
Oh, okay, great.
So that might be a plus, but I don't expect it's going to happen next year. But
So Riderwood has it, right?
that's my understanding. Yeah, yeah, and it's an expense item.
Yes,
It's a big
right.
expense. But install exterior signs on campus
Okay.
so that you can tell which building you're going to. Because if you drive by town center, there's not a sign there, a big sign that says this is town center.
Right. The only thing that says town center is off the side of the road there.
That's right.
With an arrow pointing over, but it's not that large print.
It's
It's
a
not something different.
small green sign in white, and you're looking to the left at the building. Now, you're not
Exactly.
looking to the right at the sign.
Exactly.
So, and then the building signs are only on the doors, so
Right.
you can't necessarily see those from the street, from the road. So last year, we put Gray Parks in charge of a committee to work on that, and so they are working on it, and we hope that's going to come soon.
And I just want to clarify, you put Gray Parks, who is a council member, right?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
when you're saying you're
Yeah.
really talking about the council members
yeah.
in it.
And last year he was the vice president,
Okay.
so we felt it was that important,
Okay.
and we made an ad hoc committee, putting him in charge of that committee.
All right.
One of the pretty practical things about having the building identified on the awnings is when residents call for a cab, if they don't want to go and meet the cab at the community
Right,
center, they'll say, I'm at,
Whatever, yeah.
Canterbury Square, and give the number, but the drivers don't always know
Right.
or match it with the numbers, even in using a GPS system.
Exactly. So it really is important, and not just for that, but for visitors. I mean, family members of where can I park? Where you can park in the lot next to building whatever, and everybody going, what's building whatever?
Right, right. And Peggy just mentioned the GPS system. That's on our list. We're still trying to get that for our shuttle buses on campus, so that when you are sitting at Hunter's Crossing, you can look at a monitor and tell where the bus is on campus.
Wow.
Not much more than that.
Right.
But if you know it's at Village Square, you know you need to stay there.
Right.
But if it's out at Oak Hill, you have time to run some errands, check your mail, go to the bathroom, whatever, before it gets there. So we're working on that.
In fact, just speaking of that, do you know how long does it take the bus to get from Oak Hill down to Village Square? Is it 10, 15 minutes?
It's 10 minutes back to Town Center,
Okay.
and then probably another 5, depending on how many rollators are
Yeah.
going on.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it could be a longer wait
Sure,
than you think.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. But we're hoping to get the GPS soon.
Great.
That's been a big ongoing concern for us.
Yes.
We thought we had it, and then corporate came in and took over
Yeah.
and is going to get GPS system for all of Erickson communities. So it had to go back to the bid process, and we are promised to be the first ones to get it. We will be the pilot.
Oh, okay.
So
Again.
So we're anxiously waiting for that.
Okay. And by the way, if people don't, if we have new people who do not realize the fact that we're getting it soon, what that means is that Berwick Drews, who was the finance director and became the one responsible for getting the TV in and the phone system and those kinds of things, that his favorite word was soon.
Soon.
And, we'll be done soon. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. And other issues? Other things?
Well,
with
I
that?
wanted to point out one thing. The Villager just came out,
Yes.
and on page 3, yes, is all of our budget requests. So everybody has access to that list.
Right.
And they can look at them and see what we have. And,
Okay.
And the requests that were made, that made the final cut were really good. And some of them got turned down because we knew that the staff was already working on them or
Yes.
they had been budgeted. So it's not that it was a bad idea. I think there were a couple creative ideas. One that comes to mind was someone wanted the pond cleaned, drained, cleaned, put new water in. Another one wanted access down to the nature trail from Oak Hill.
Right.
So similar to what we have at Village Square.
Right.
So some of those are almost impossible
Exactly.
to do, and maybe not a priority given what we have going for us at Green
Yeah,
Spring.
at this time, in regards to that. But I don't know how many people know all the things that the council has recommended over the years that have been accomplished. I mean, the first thing that pops in my mind is the fact of the refurbishing of the apartments, the 10-year plus renovations, refurbishing, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that was all council initiated in regards to that. And I just think it's absolutely tremendous.
and the one we're actively in right now are the new windows for all of the
Yes.
apartment buildings.
Exactly, yeah.
And that took several years for us to get that
Right.
through, and that's been good.
And so when people wonder, what's the purpose of the council really is to be the voice to administration, to be the go-between between residents and administration, to share the concerns of the residents and really to push in regards to that. Peggy, you and excuse me, you and Mary Sue meet with administration how often?
We meet every other week as an executive team, so that also includes Ron Patterson.
Okay.
And then Mary Sue meets on the alternate week.
Right.
So for example, we have an executive committee meeting coming up this afternoon.
Okay.
And because Chandra's on vacation, we'll meet with Brian Marandola.
The associate? All right. Very good. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately. We're kind of cutting things short this morning, trying to jam too many things in at one time. But very, very glad to have both of you with us this morning, and encourage people to watch out for the elections.
Yes.
And please consider to run.
Yes, please.
And
Yes,
do
for
the
sure.
things you need to do for that, and then to be sure you volunteer, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, we need volunteers for all of our committees, and in November, we'll be sending out information about that. So encourage everybody to join a committee.
All right. Sounds really, really good. Okay. Well, folks, don't run away. We've got another roll-in, and then we're going to be talking to Kimberly Nelson about the gala. Okay? Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Kelly Luke-Shander. This week on Eye on Green Spring, we're featuring the DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Well, I'm Mary Elizabeth Sipe, and I joined DAR in 1991 in another chapter over in Fairfax County. And when my husband and I were ready to move here, a friend of mine said, you have got to start a DAR chapter at Green Spring. DAR is short for Daughters of the American Revolution. Well, unfortunately, it is somewhat restricted, not by race, creed, or color, or religion, but you do have to prove direct lineage to a patriot. A patriot is someone who served in some way during the American Revolution. Most people think of that as being military, a soldier, but there were other ways. You might have been a farmer, so you might have contributed bales of hay, a horse, other food stuff, because food was in definitely short supply. You might have supplied a gun or even a cow, most anything that would be of use to them. That is, you could have been a judge, you could have been on a jury in a court, you could have served on some committee. There were lots of ways, but you do have to prove your direct lineage, and that means documented, nothing word about. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of each month with the exception of July and August. This month, December, we're having a holiday party today. And in June, we have what we call a picnic. It's an in-house picnic, and all of these are held in the Akatik room. Our meetings are at 3:15 in the afternoon. We welcome new members.
Welcome back to Village in Motion. It is Thursday, it's the 24th of August. And for this last segment today, we have Kimberly Nelson, who is the Director of Philanthropy, and she's going to give us an update about the upcoming gala. But Kimberly, it is great having you here.
Thanks, always good to be here.
Yeah, and I was expecting all the stars and stripes this morning.
No, I came in pretty simple.
Yes.
I didn't want to compete with you because you're in the red, beautiful for red, white, and blue.
Yes.
So I just wanted to give a few updates because our office does get some questions about the gala and about the Benevolent Care Fund.
Right.
And so the one question that we hear the most is, why is the gala $250?
Exactly. A lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And so I want it because people go, $250, that's a lot of money for dinner.
Right.
And so I just want to remind residents that the ticket price, only a small portion is for the meal and the entertainment, which is $50. And that part is not deductible.
Right.
The balance of the $200 per ticket is the charitable contribution for taxes. So it is, yes, it is an expensive ticket, and I know because I also write that check for that ticket, and but it is because it's charitable intent, and so most of it is deductible. We are getting close to our numbers with Gala. We probably have about 24 seats left. But that's about it. Molly is, of course, diligently trying to keep up with that with things that come in through the mail, but we're getting pretty close. So if anyone is interested in coming to the gala and they haven't already sent in their RSVP, I would recommend you please do so in the next week. And we also have a gala invitation, and residents, when we do that publication at the gala time, we always list names of all donors who've given to Benevolent Care from January of this year and through the end of August. And so if you'd like to make sure your name gets listed, to please either get us your contribution or your pledge commitment so that we know it's coming before the end of the year.
And if you don't want your name listed, but you want to give anyway, you can always ask.
You can always be anonymous.
Yes. Okay.
So we just want to make sure folks know that. And of course, again, the Benevolent Care Fund is really the resident fund because it's helping each other. It is part of the reason why we are a nonprofit. And so as a nonprofit, we get a lot of tax advantages that keep our costs at a more reasonable level than other locations that you might hear about. So we just really encourage residents to get behind it if they're able to, and if they have questions, to come by our office and help us.
Yeah, okay.
And we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
And the gala is?
It is Friday, September 12th.
Okay.
Hunters Crossing Jefferson will be closed that day. More details will come out, I'm sure, through dining, but it is always a fun event.
Right.
Uncle Sam will be there. Lots of stars and stripes. It's a lot of fun for a really good cause, and we really appreciate the residents who get behind it and help support one another.
Well, not only will the Jefferson be closed, but the bistro will be closed also, I understand.
I believe so, because of some setup requirements for the reception.
Okay.
So I do believe that is correct.
And the reception begins at?
The reception begins at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So we usually let the mailman know to do Hunters Crossing first
okay.
for mail, so residents can pick up their mail. Or you may pick it up a little bit later in the day when the festivities sort of settle down.
Okay. And it lasts until?
Usually it'll be between 9 and 10, depends a little bit on the band and a little bit on our food service and timing. So we hope folks will stay through most of the music entertainment, have an opportunity to dance if you'd like to, but more importantly, just have some good time together.
But there'll be caricatures, there'll be a band, other activities?
Yes, you're right. So during the reception, we have the caricature artist. We, of course, have a professional photographer doing portraits that you can take home with you that day. Uncle Sam will be there for what I call impromptu type of photos that we will then print later through our office. We will have a jazz duo during the reception.
Okay.
So that's a great meet and mingle time.
Right.
And then during the gala downstairs, there's assigned seating. And we, of course, have a fabulous focus on great food and fellowship, and then a live band for part of dinner, and then, of course, a little show as we move into dessert. So
All right.
should be a lot of fun.
Should be a lot of fun, usually is.
Yeah. So anyway, if you have questions, just call our office, but I just want to do a little reminder out there and let folks know the tax deduction information and that kind of thing.
Okay. So folks, if you have not sent your money in, sent your reservation in, get it done. Get it done.
Yep. Every dollar makes a difference,
Yes.
no matter what the donation, so we really appreciate it.
Okay. All righty. Thank you very much, Kimberly. Thank you for the update, and I hope
you.
everybody hurries up and gets their information in and
Thank you.
gets their money in.
Thank
okay?
you.
All right. Folks, thank you for being with us this morning. But